Good evening, everyone. It is Wednesday. I'm Duane Whitmer, so you know it's time for the weekly Whitmer Wednesday. This week, we're going to talk about something that I've kind of touched on before, but I'd like to touch on it again because I think it is the solution to fixing this country, and that is the Defiance Agenda. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today and how it kind of factors in to just our life as a whole across the country, mostly Western New York, New York State, where I live, but how anyone across the country can kind of utilize this. And that's what's great about this is it's not just for one specific area or town or party. It's for anyone. And it's a quite freeing experience. So I'm going to set my timer for 15 minutes, but I'll keep these things short. And welcome to the weekly Whitmer Wednesday. First, I'd like to begin by saying I did not watch the State of the Union last night because people asked me to do a response. I did not watch it. I don't really never watched a State of the Union address, mainly because I don't believe the federal government has authority to tell me how to live my life. I view the federal government as an invading force. I view the ATF, DEA, INS, etc., as essentially redcoats that should be dealt with in a certain way. So I actually did not watch the State of the State. So you're not going to get State of the Union. So you're not going to get a State of the Union response out of me. Maybe I'll watch it this weekend if I'm bored, but look, if I want to watch a dementia-riddled old man lie to me, I'll watch TV. It's entertainment. It's not something I view as relevant. They're not people I view as beneficial to society. I don't view anyone at a state level position or higher as beneficial to society as a whole. So if I just don't care. I don't care about what Joe Biden has to say. I don't care what Congress has to say. They're all criminals. So, no, I did not watch the State of the Union. And that's what got me into the Defiance Agenda and pushing this message was, how can you watch the leadership of this country talk and interact and have any faith that they care about you? Because they don't. They love their paycheck. They love making $185,000 a year plus. They love insider trading. If you believe the Epstein flight logs, they love having sex and trading kids. They love human trafficking. They essentially love being in a separate societal class system while we fight for table scraps. And so I don't really care what they have to say. And, I got really upset a couple years back because I felt like, well, there needs to be a change. We need to reform it. We need to fix the broken system. And I realized you really can't. We're not going to fix the broken system because it's set up in a system where we can't fix it. And you see it locally here. Well, we're going to take over the committee and run our own candidates. Good luck. The machine will beat you because they're paid to be part of the machine. That is one thing I will say that Donald Trump did well was he did kind of point out that there is an establishment, and Hillary Clinton did this very well as well. Whether you support Bernie Sanders or not, he was robbed of the 2016 Democratic candidacy because Hillary Clinton was a machine, the establishment, whatever you want to call it, the swamp, whatever you want to call it. And, Hillary Clinton robbed Bernie Sanders in 2016 and she lost to Donald Trump. And one thing that Donald Trump did well was actually expose that there is a political system in place that is set up to keep essentially its own caste system functioning. And love Trump or hate Trump, no one really asked me my opinion. I'd give if you asked. But he did expose that there is a pretty flawed system in this country. And really, even voting for someone who's not part of the system isn't going to solve the problems. The problem is just ignoring the system as a whole and doing your own thing. And that's where the Defiance Agenda became really what I focused on. I ran for office and realized that even if I win, and our candidates across the state are learning this, our governor candidate learned this the hard way in 2018 and in 2022. And maybe he'll learn it in 2026 because he's a reformer and I don't know what to tell him. But look, fighting the machine, fighting the system, you're going to lose because the government jobs program, there's so much money, there's so much at stake, there's so many jobs, you're not going to beat it. And if you beat it, they're going to outlast you because they have unlimited resources. So the solution is the Defiance Agenda and the state of defiance, which is just to ignore what they're doing. Focus on non-enforcement, non-compliance, jury nullification, and repeal through those means. Examples of the Defiance Agenda are, look, and they start as great or as little as you want to go. One example of defiance, and in my opinion, is not working for the government. Look, if the government has an employment shortage, you're seeing this with the New York State Police, you're seeing this with police localities. If the government has a shortage of workers, they're by default overwhelmed and their tasks are going to suffer. Notoriously, government workers are inefficient and they're not the best, employees. So if you have a massive employment shortage in, say, the IRS, audits are going to go down, them jamming up your refund, it's going to go down. And that's generally a win for liberty, right? If you have a mass shortage of employment with police agencies, well, they can't do mobile road patrol, they can't do revenue generation, they can't do, the traffic, what do you call them? They're unconstitutional checkpoints, but they still do them because it's revenue generation for the progressive big government. They can't do those things. And by default, less victimless crimes are going punished and more liberty exists. Generally, just saying no to government employment is a form of defiance. You pick your battles. Look, if you want to ignore the ATF and the DEA and do that, that's defiance. If you want to deal with it, go right ahead. I'm not your lawyer. Don't call me. But, it starts as little as just protest chickens. Owning your own chickens is a form of defiance. Not having a dog license is a form of defiance. In Hamburg, New York, there's a ton of really dumb codes. Actually, one was they wanted to put a code on the book for having a bonfire. Having an unlicensed underground bonfire is defiance. And you're like, well, Duane, that's stupid. What does it solve? It forces government's hand. It calls their bluff. At the end of the day, what the Defiance Agenda is about is openly defying unconstitutional and progressive government and telling them, I'm calling your bluff. Here's a great example, and it's so stupid and it's so minor, but it worked. Hamburg, New York, where I live, wanted to implement bonfire permits. So you had to go pay $25 to have a backyard bonfire. I spoke out and said that I'm going to resist. And what I'm actually going to do is every Friday, because of this law, I'm going to hold a backyard bonfire, unlicensed, openly advertise it, and I'm going to call Hamburg's bluff. What are you going to do? And if you find me, I will throw the fine in the bonfire. It'll be kindling right to the fire. Are you going to arrest me? Are you going to take my house? Is this a battle you want to fight? And the town overall said, no, they don't, because they're not going to come out looking good in that situation. And they dropped they dropped it. It never passed. And they moved on. Now you're going to say, well, that's a dumb victory. It is a dumb victory, but it's a victory nonetheless. Look at in New York State, legalization of marijuana. Leave it to the government to botch one of the most profitable industries ever to exist, and that's cannabis sales. New York State acknowledges finally that drugs has won the war on drugs and starts to legalize marijuana, but like a typical mafioso, move, like a typical extortion racket, they need their cut. So they're going to hand out licensing that they see fit. Well, it's created an issue because they're so far behind the curve. The OCM, Office of Cannabis Management, they're so incompetent. They're so inept. They have botched the rollout of legalization. So there's these sticker stores that have popped up. Well, now New York State needs to expand the war on drugs and go after legal shops to stop cannabis sales, but cannabis is now legal. So in New York State's logic, we need to expand the war on drugs because the war on drugs has failed. So we need to have more government laws governing legal cannabis because government cannabis is illegal, but it's failed to be illegal. So we need more laws and more regulations. It doesn't make any sense. This is what I'm getting at. And it doesn't work. Essentially, New York State thinks there needs to be an expanded war on drugs to fight illegal legalization. And it doesn't make any sense. And you're seeing Native American reservations pop up where they're selling it essentially unregulated and unlicensed, which I love it. That's defiance. You're seeing sticker stores pop up across the state. That's defiance. that is telling the state they don't have authority to do it. And you're seeing them challenging the lawsuits. You're seeing them challenging courts. I love chaos. It's great. Another form of defiance is taking advantage of your tax situation. If you're a small business, writing things off on your taxes is defiance. You are not paying. That's legal defiance, in my opinion. You know, you want to hire a tax professional to make sure you're taking advantage of all legal situations. But that is defiance. It's cutting revenue from the government. Another example of defiance is challenging property tax assessments. You know, forcing the state to acknowledge the fact that your house may be overassessed and you're overpaying in taxes. It is defiance. It is taking money from the state. It is taking money from the government. It is taking money from progressivism. Another example of defiance is helping the homeless, feeding the homeless. You know, some areas have rules where you can't actually feed the homeless. You can't do certain things for the homeless. You know, helping them is a form of defiance. It's ignoring the laws, and it's helping your society. It's helping your community. There are a lot of things you can do that, you know, kind of spit in the face of progressive big government and these laws. And now, why should you do it? You know, Duane, like, I see it, but what's the benefit? It's showing these politicians and the political class that they're not needed. And that is one thing I've noticed is as I've stepped away from running from office and more into an activist capacity, I get attacked more by the establishment. Well, why? Because I'm exposing the Republican and Democratic establishment for the frauds they are. They've done nothing to help you. And I'm showing the individual that you don't need Joe Biden, you don't need Barack Obama, Nancy Pelosi, Mitch McConnell, Donald Trump, Bernie Sanders, you know, Elizabeth Warren, AOC. You don't need your favorite politicians to solve your problems. You don't need your favorite Republican committeeman to solve your problems. You don't need the GOP to solve your problems. All you need is yourself, a little bit of effort, and a little bit of common sense and knowledge. And the establishment loses their shit on this because they have a phenomenal Ponzi scheme set up where they take your time, your money, and your energy and put it into their investment. They invest in themselves with it, and they get wealthy. Politicians are wonderful at this. They get you to do work. They get you to do effort. They give you to give money, and they get the benefit. It's kind of like the saying, you always want to invest other people's money. That's what the political class does. They invest your time, your money, your energy, your effort, and they get wealthy. And it happens in a lot of these groups. The leader gets the money, the leader gets the notoriety, and you do the work. Well, what if you could do the work and not build up someone else's following, not build up someone else's notoriety, not build up someone else's bank account, but you can actually do less work and have an actual benefit that helps you? That's what the Defiance Agenda does. And that's why a lot of people are upset with it, because we're exposing that for the last probably 20, 30 years, the political parties have led you astray and have lied to you. And have really just had nothing but a Ponzi scheme jobs program. And they've taken your tax dollars, they've taken your money, they've taken your time, they've taken your effort, they've taken your hope, and have done nothing. And so that's where I'm pushing this Defiance Agenda, because I truly believe a lot of good people have lost a lot of resources, and they deserve the truth. And like I say, I do get attacked a lot. I didn't support Lee Zeldin. I didn't support Kathy Hochul either. And a lot of Lee Zeldin fans flipped the shit on me and told me I was an asshole. Lee Zeldin lost. Where's Lee Zeldin now? Who cares? You know, he didn't help you. And if you gave money to Lee Zeldin, you have nothing to show for it. I'm sorry, and that's the truth. Hate to say it, but that is the truth. And that's where a lot of people get upset when I say it. You're kind of confronted. It's similar to a client I had a client a couple years back, and I caught their office manager stealing from them. The client and the office manager were best friends, and the office manager was stealing. It was pretty obvious what she was writing herself a $2,000 check every month. She was stealing $2,000 a month. And I confronted the office manager. I confronted my client and said, hey, here's $2,000 a month in checks being written from your account to the office manager. She's stealing from you. And the office manager attacked me and said that I was wrong and I was a piece of shit and you know, I wasn't doing a good job and it was my fault. And then I showed the checks and I said, well, what is this? It's because when they're exposed, they lash out because they're losing the stranglehold. It's kind of like an abusive relationship. And that's what a lot of people have with the political parties and the political system is an abusive relationship. The government, by default, is an abuser. And a lot of these political parties are complicit in it, and they're abusers in their own way. And it's really trying to wake up these people and explain to them that, look, you're a victim of a psychological mental abuse and Ponzi scheme. And waking people up, and they lash out because they're mad, they're angry, they're looking for a hero, they're looking for a savior, they're looking for help. And at the end of the day, you need to stop looking. You need to stop looking at a ballot. You need to stop looking at a politician as your savior and start looking in a mirror. You're going to lead the change you need to see. And that's really what we're trying to push with this Defiance agenda. So that's what we're going to be about. Next week will be more about why this is important and why political parties go out of their way to squash grassroots movements. But I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Learn more. There goes my timer. We're on the 15-minute mark to a T. You can learn more about this at DuaneWhitmer.com, which is my website. Learn more, Whitmer for Liberty, DuaneWhitmer.com, Whitmer for NY27 at Twitter, and Whitmer for Liberty on YouTube because Facebook is sapping me. But thanks, guys, for tuning in. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. I will see you next Wednesday. Hope you all have a great weekend. Stay warm. Enjoy this weather. Take care, guys.